Good morning. Good morning. Matt, how are you doing today? And can you hear me now?
Wi-Fi. I can hear you now. I just reconnected, so hopefully my internet connection as well. We are live and direct. Monday market update. Matt Gougé, mortgage broker. Nash Paradise, the loan wizard, celebrating a birthday today, and said I would be rather be nowhere else but with you, Matt, talking about the market, educating loan officers, real estate agents, and consumers about what's going on in the world of mortgages and real estate. So thanks for joining us, brother. Happy birthday.
Yeah, I don't think I said that.
Hopefully,
I just kind of forgot it was my birthday. So hey, I'm happy to spend it with you. 41 feels like 41. So, but
yeah,
let's
at that age, the mental starts to go, so you start being forgetful and stuff. But I know the important stuff that sticks in your brain, like all the economic numbers and tracking all that. You got the bandwidth and brain power. That stuff still sticks. So looking forward to a good market conversation. What else you got planned for the birthday? Anything?
Well, I will be removing some dead fish from my daughter's fish tank. I got that text message a little while ago. So that's an exciting. I got to go home early to take care of that before she gets home from school. Probably gonna heat up a hot pocket tonight as kids have activities, and then maybe sit in bed and eat a couple Oreos. Really depressing. Really good stuff. But
sounds like an amazing time. You know what? Do yourself a solid. Do something wild, like maybe midday Croc changes. Go with like a different pair of Crocs the second half of the day. Just live on the edge, man. That's what I encourage you to do.
Let's go.
All right. Cool. So let's jump into the numbers. We'll talk mortgage rates, tariffs, the real estate market. Last week was the Fed week, in case anybody forgot. So luckily I've got Nash here to update us all on what was said there, how it affected mortgage rates in the market. Why don't you go through and give us a little recap of last week's economic news?
So you can kind of define last week as up and then back down. Very flat week overall. We started off, got some nice improvements in the market, and then by the end of the week, we had a couple interesting days where they popped up better and then slid. Popped up better and slid. It looks like Tony Hawk Pro Skater over here watching the actual charts. But to the relevancy of what went on, Fed rate decision unchanged. We knew it was going to be. And then just, the speech, okay, nothing real cool, nothing elaborate. It seems like everyone was going to be holding off, waiting on some more tariff discussion, which we knew was going to be coming this week. So, as far as last week's economic news goes, no news is good news. I mean, there's lots of news, but no movement. So that's what we're here for, is to track what did that do to the market. And right now, not a whole lot of anything. So I feel like we can move on to the fun stuff coming on.
Yep. What do we got going on this week? So much activity that hardly fits on the page. If you want, just highlight for us the stuff that you're tracking, the stuff that you think has the most likely to have impact on what we're tracking mortgage rates.
So I'm going to put two targets on this week, and the first one's today. The S&P Global Services PMI was pretty significant. So was the manufacturing. Those both missed pretty significantly, especially the global manufacturing. Came in well short of projections, missed by 5.1%. So, we saw a lot of action this morning coming in. That weakness in the bond market, not good. 10-year treasuries went up a good bit this morning because of that. But more than that, it was the discussion around tariff exclusions. So how is that going to impact markets? Well, it could very well prop up the stock markets, but it's not looking good for bonds. The other target I've got this week isn't until Friday. Looking at CPE, core personal consumption expenditures. Core CPE is a big mark. And anytime you got stuff coming in on a Friday, that's always something to be wary of. We're anticipating that to be flat month over month and slightly higher year over year. I'm still not really worried about it. I'm not circling Friday on the calendar. Overall, I'm going to call it a pretty low impact economic week. It's going to be other things in the news that tend to move the markets more this week, in my opinion.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, for those of us looking, 10 years up, 8 basis points. We're seeing mortgage rates slide a little bit. I know we'll get to the chart, and I think the people, like to track mortgage rates. To me, based on what you're saying and based on what I'm seeing, we're kind of in this range, right? And I'll call it 6.75 for all intents and purposes, where it feels like we've kind of settled in to that interest rate range, at least for the last couple weeks. And we'll look at that. I'd love to get your input, Nash, on what you think the future holds for that range. Do we stay there? Are we going to continue to trickle down? Are we
We've hit a nice plateau, like you said. We shot up pretty well in the middle of February and got to a spot here. In fact, let's bring up the next chart just to kind of see what this is looking like. Oh, okay, we'll get in the Fed funds. I think we can breeze through this. We just saw the last flat move from Fed meeting. We're going to be flat in May as well. And then this is consistent with what we've talked about in the last few weeks. First expected Fed rate cut in June. Second expected Fed rate cut coming up, most likely going to be September. So, 2 cuts so far. Are we going to see a cut in December? That's kind of 50-50 right now. So for right now, based on the dot plots and everything that's been updated, still just 2 cuts this year. First one is almost certainly going to be June. Second one, we'll see as we get deeper in the year, but probably going to be September. The relevancy here and the takeaways is there's a good chance we get a third cut in December, which could be interesting as we get towards fourth quarter. But for right now, it's going to be business as usual, unless you got anything to add on that.
No, sounds like the same we're seeing. It's interesting how we've, kind of moved towards, the likelihood of that third cut. I got a buddy who vehemently disagrees with me and thinks there's no chance we're getting 3. But, as the year kind of grinds on, it looks like it's a flip of a coin.
Yeah, 50-50 leaning towards a third cut. And the Fed, in my opinion, has been a little aggressive on going slightly early on cuts. So we'll see. But, having gotten just through that last meeting, we don't have another one coming up until May. And, 90% likelihood we don't see movement then. So not too worried about the Fed funds rate here for the next few months.
Cool.
But let's jump on. So here's where we wanted to get to. And like Matt, you said, it feels like we've been stalled out a little bit. Really, it's just been since the middle to latter part of February. I'm looking at the charts that are in front of me right now. And starting February 25th, that's where our mortgage-backed securities yields hit right around that 99.79 figure. So what we see is the 25-day moving average. We are right in line with that right now. So for the last 25 days anyway, we've been nice and average, good and consistent. Small moves here and there, right around the 6.75 range. It's gotten a little above it, a little below it. It's trickling up a bit today. I think we opened the day at 6.70 on the overnight average. Now it's about 6.72. But what that really means is the markets are starting to catch up to these interest rates. We're starting to see news articles. I'm seeing them all over the place. Highest existing home sales in a year. Well, it went from 4.01 million to 4.2 million. And, mortgage rates are at their lowest levels since, 2024. Best rates of the year. Okay, that's true. is not that impactful, but confidence is everything. As we get into spring buyer's market, my home, talk about it a lot. It's been on the market for 7 months. Just did an open house this weekend. It was the busiest open house we've seen. Tons of new buyers. It looks like all I want for my birthday is an offer on my house. That'll make my Hot Pocket and Oreos work out. But we're seeing the market trends move. And as more consumers and more news outlets and more TV shows start talking about, interest rates are in the upper sixes, not in the mid sevens, that's a different messaging that's being conveyed. And that's going to bring some more consumers into the mix, which is exactly what we want. We want a balanced market where we see more buyers trying to jump in, more people trying to sell their existing homes. We've been aching for some balance and movement here, and keeping rates around this level, having some stability, is really good for balance.
Yeah, I agree. Popped into some open houses yesterday, and it's always interesting just to hear conversations from, the average family talking about the average things where, we've got this current house, just had kid number 4, house isn't really working for us, but the math tells me this, and going from 3% to 6.75. After that client left, it was just me and the real estate agent left in the room, and, great agent with 30 years experience, has seen, everything. I had a good conversation with him around, like, these are the conversations that I'm having, like the one that we just had with this, 35-year-old that just had his 4th kid and really wants to move up. But, it's either one of two things, I think, that happens. One, hey, I don't want to go from 3% to 6.75, but my house has gained $250,000 in equity over the last 5 years, so I can roll that in, and I'm not going to borrow as much on this house at that 6.75% rate. So my payment's not going to go up, double. We're going to make it work. Or they say the numbers don't work. We're going to stick it out. And generally speaking, from what I've seen, and this is just my personal opinion, sometimes it takes a year or 2 for people to be like, fine. Right. And whatever you want to call that, they're used to higher rates, or, I don't even know if you'd call it like fatigue, but after a certain amount of time, like, life and comfort and family needs eventually kind of outweigh what just the pure math says about whether or not a move or a move up makes sense.
Well, there's that recency bias. And, we've been living with rates this high since, November of 2022, if I'm tracking the MBS securities anyway. And, there have been ups and downs since then, and this is where it's been at. I mean, that we're talking over 2 years of interest rates hovering around 7%, a little higher, a little lower. This has been the new normal for quite some time. So I think that first year and a half or so of, record high home prices plus skyrocketing interest rates, like, everyone's going to pump the brakes for a little bit. Then you got an election to look forward to. Once you get through all that, now, hey, we're first quarter 2025. It's time to go forward. People are making moves. You kind of know where you are with your employment for the most part. You know where you are with schools. You know what's going on. So you're either going to take action or not. But, like you had said, we've got some stability here for the last month. That's good. With this chart, as you look, I don't see a month of stability anywhere other than maybe, April to May of 24. And you don't really want stability around 7.5%. This is a better spot to find some stability. So we'll take it. There's a lot of room to continue to improve looking forward. There's not a lot of news this week or next even that is going to move the markets nearly as much as, what gets said by the president, what actions are taken by Congress, how things are going to be moved by billionaire market movers. So, we're going to be doing a little bit of reacting right now, but, we'll take the wins. People are getting out. They're looking at homes. Again, existing home sales, highest figure we've seen in a year. It's exactly what we want to hear right now getting into the spring market. So that's my takeaway, and that's where I'll take that right now.
Okay. Yeah. I'm with you. I read an article, or I saw something from Lance Lambert and Resi Club, where some of these big home builders are talking about, the spring buying market hasn't really sprung yet. They haven't seen the normal pickup. But I think, like you've seen and like I've seen in my local market, I think it's coming. I think for us, we've got some 70-degree plus weather, and buyers are going to get out there and they're going to make their move, whether it's, timing it where it's in between school years for the kiddos, or it's just that more inventory hits the market and more action happens in the spring over these next, call it 3 to 4 months. We're going to see, relative increase in activity. And I say relative because the recency bias you talked about is not just for rates, Nash. It's like 2021, there were 7 million homes transacted. And so people will talk about like how slow it is and there's not a lot of home sales going on, because we're at that 4 million level, which, historically is probably slightly below average, but then versus some of the recent years that were wild and, super active, it feels slower.
Yeah, it does. But like I said, all of that's out of our control. So, continuing to be in front of our people, making sure they know that rates have come down, that affordability is up a little bit, that we are still seeing some wins in the market right now. That's all we can do as professionals, is just get out there and make sure that we're conveying the right messages.
Yeah. And to the point of that conversation I had over the weekend with a random person in open house, like that is a conversation I'm having a lot of. People tend to forget that when you own a home, in your sleep, you just gain equity. And while, rates have gone up and people are, maybe upset about that, or they feel this like tie to their old mortgage that they need to stay in it. Good news, bad news. Bad news is, yes, you might have to trade a 3.25 for a 6.75 if your family's growing and, there's a need for a larger house or a different area. The good news is, without much work on your end, you probably saw 50, 60, 70% appreciation over the last 5 years. So whatever that equates to, 200,000, 250,000, 300,000 in equity, you get to extract that when you sell, apply it to the forward purchase. And that's honestly a really common conversation I'm having, is how do we figure out how to buy your new home that you and your family need? Is it sell first, Airbnb, buy new? Is it buy the new one first, then sell? Is it, I've got to get a HELOC out so I can put 20% down on the new place, then I'm going to sell, take the rest of the net proceeds after the first and the HELOC are paid, apply that and do a recast? Those are in my opinion, great conversations going on. I say they're great conversations because as an advisor, I'm not just a click button, get mortgage. I'm let's look at your situation and figure out the best game plan. I literally just had one where unfortunately someone was getting some bad advice, and the bad advice they were getting was causing them to be sidelined unnecessarily. We put a plan together. They bought a house and went from 1,000 square feet to 2,000, which they truly needed as a family. We're able to do it, buy first before they sell the old place. Now they can move into their new place, vacate and clean and get that old house ready to sell and get top dollar for it. So that's fun on our side, I believe. Nash, what about you, brother?
Yeah, man. I mean, you said it better than I could. That's basically every type of solution that exists right now. And man, you never know what it's going to be, but walk through all of them. So yeah, that's all I got for news this week and neat things that are happening. I say, let's get back together next Monday and figure out if anything magical happened with those tariff talks. Not supposed to be a lot of big action on that until April 2nd anyway, but let's see what it does to the market and find some wins for people.
All right. Yeah. What was your birthday wish and offer on your house?
Yes, multiple offers. Multiple. And I'll take one.
Multiple.
But
Jeez,
I want like
Louise,
three.
man. I told you to make a birthday wish, man, and you really.
We've had a couple
So
people stating they're sending offers today. So that was the, like I said, markets turned up and had a nice price reduction. So expecting a couple today at least.
All right, cool, man. Happy birthday, Nash. See you next week, brother.
Thanks, boss. Take care.
Bye.